Alright, hello and welcome. So, it's time to talk about the Tennocon Hall for Baro. So, this is coming up, and for those of you that do not know, Baro Katir is going to have everything he has ever brought for his Tennocon Hall. So, we need to talk about what if that is actually worth getting, which is a pretty decent amount of it, all things considered. But if you were going to want to get absolutely everything, it's worth noting that that would cost you, without consumables included, and I'll list off the things that I didn't include in this, 32,230 ducats, which is a hefty amount of ducats, and 19,175,000 credits, which is a pretty considerable amount of credits as well. Things that are not included in that are boosters, affinity, credits, resources, that stuff, Roken Catalyst, which he has brought before, Assassin Beacons, which includes the Groostrag, the Stalker, Zanuka, so on and so forth, the Sands of Inaros quest, because he brings that every time anyway, mod packs, because no one should get those ever, even for jokes, Pedestal Prime, which is an extra 1 million credits each if you're going to get one of those, but that's just credits, not really factoring into the ducats, of course. The Katir Fireworks, which are consumable, and the Axie A2 relics, which are the relics for the Aklex Prime. Those are 50 ducats each, so add those in to that cost as well, depending on how many you personally feel like you need to grab in order to get that drop. And then finally, the Corrupted Bombard Spectre is not included in that. 32,000 is not a small amount, so we're going to go over the top picks, and I've got 3 categories to go over that with, which is the must-get category, the great category, and then the mastery fodder. The mastery fodder is what it sounds like. It's weapons that are basically just there because you can get mastery from them. The great category includes things that you should definitely pick up if you can afford it, and must-gets are things you gotta have. If you probably already have these if you've been spending a lot of time getting stuff from Baro anyway, and you could probably just move on to the great category if you somehow have not grabbed those, and that's gonna be that mostly. Basically, this is just a buyer's guide for that day. It is worth noting before we begin that in the past, Baro has had sales on these items at certain intervals. Sometimes they will show up cheaper than normal. In particular, the day of his 50th visit, which is the day that he first brought the Pedestal Primes, for anyone that's wondering, items in ducat value were 50% off, roughly. Pretty closely 50% off across the board. It would be somewhat likely that DE may give a 50% discount on him having such an incredibly massive inventory. So, if you feel like that's going to be the case, I feel like they would probably do something like that. You can shoot for half of the amounts of each category if you wanted to do that, or half of whatever you want to go for overall, or probably just very slightly over half. So, with that, let's get started, starting first, of course, with our must-get category. The first things first in the must-get category, we got Prime Continuity. This mod is just too valuable. It goes on pretty much every single Warframe that I use, and if it doesn't go on them in one build, it probably goes on them in another. It's just incredibly useful. It's so much duration and adds so much to so many builds that it's really hard to avoid using this mod when you have access to it. It's a very nice upgrade for many Warframes, allowing them to get either vastly more efficiency from the duration on their channeled abilities, or to just clean up their build and allow them to have like one extra slot that they may not otherwise have. All of that comes together to make Prime Continuity a definite must-have for anyone who has not acquired it yet. In that same vein, there's Prime Flow. Prime Flow is a bit of a different case, but Prime Flow, for a lot, especially for Warframes with already high energy, gives them an obscene amount of energy, and then combine that with mods like Quick Thinking, can give Warframes that are normally pretty squishy quite a lot of survivability that they will otherwise just not have, making Prime Flow incredibly useful. And along with that, if you're going to be someone who wants to raid and wants to be a bomb runner in LOR, Prime Flow is a very, very useful mod to kind of relieve some of the pressure off of an EV Trinity, and just make the raid a whole lot smoother if you want to go for that. Beyond that, we've got our Prime Point Blank. Shotguns are an incredibly powerful weapon type. This makes them just better. There's really not much to be said besides that, but shotguns are some of the most powerful weapons in the game, and this makes them better. I got nothing else really about that. Beyond that, we've got Primed Reach. Melee weapons, also, as it turns out, incredibly powerful. Making it so that they can hit more things is very, very strong. So definitely pick up Primed Reach if you don't have it. It is an incredibly incredibly good mod. Although, I will say, there are some melee weapons where it's kind of worthless, like the Kogake, the sparring type weapons, those types of things. So, weapons with already big range get massive value from this. Then we've got Primed Heated Charge, which is just way more damage for your secondaries. Pretty much as easy as it gets there. I will say that Primed Heated Charge is sometimes swapped out in favor of certain elemental combinations, but using this is very highly advised on many, many weapons. It is a very, very good mod if you're going to form a secondary. Along with that, we've got Prime Pistol Gambit and Prime Target Cracker. These are your critical kings, and they're what kind of make secondaries what they are. All of what I would consider to be the best secondaries in the game are using these. With the sometimes exception of the Vacor Murloc, which has a pure status build that is also very, very good. Everything on my top 5 uses Prime Target Cracker and Prime Pistol Gambit. Critical weapons are really, really good, especially in the secondary category, and these are must-haves for that. Another must-have, if you're going to be using melee weapons a ton, is going to be Prime Pressure Point. This is just purely more damage. You're going to use it on literally every single melee weapon you come across, and if you're into using melee, there's really no reason you shouldn't get this. Then we've got Jolt and Shell Shock, and if you're wondering why these are the only ones on the must-get category, it's because Jolt and Shell Shock only come from Baro. There's no other way to farm them, so they definitely go into the must-get category. Jolt is very, very commonly used on all sorts of secondary weapons. It's just a very good slot in, especially when you're leveling things, corrosive damage, along with the Toxin mods. The Toxin equivalents to these mods are very, very easy to get, just getting them from Corrupted Vor. Pairing those two up is really good for budget builds, and some just heavy status weapons want them anyway. Very, very good mod to get. Shell Shock goes in the fucking Tigress Prime, and you can only get it from Baro. You might as well grab it. Beyond that, we've got the Prismatic Grakata, which is a weapon that I think is just too good to not get it. It's a really, really powerful assault rifle. Everybody likes Grakatas anyway. You should definitely pick it up and try it out. It is an alternative to the Soma Prime, and it is very, very fun. The Prisma Dual Cleavers, these weapons are just fantastic. They have a Syndicate Augment, which can allow them to heal you. It's a very good augment, just giving flat up double damage, or 100% bonus damage, rather. Very, very good set of weapons. Some of the best melee weapons in the game. Definitely not one you should pass up. Again, with that, Quanta Vandal. Quanta Vandal is arguably the only beam weapon in the game worth using right now, and is absolutely something that you should grab. If you don't like beam weapons yet, and you haven't used the Quanta Vandal, I feel, is likely to change your mind, because it is very, very solid. And if you already like beam weapons, you'd be doing yourself a huge disservice to not pick up the Quanta Vandal, because it is just so good at doing what most other beam weapons can't, which is a lot of burst damage. So that is going to do it for our must-get category. Fairly short. Price tag for this category comes out to 4,985 ducats and 2.2 million credits, which is not too shabby, especially if you consider the 50% discount, lowering that to just under 2,500 ducats. It is worth noting, with that discount, though, that discount did not apply during his 50th visit to any credit values, so credit values are not going to be likely to change. So if you're very short on credits, you're definitely going to need to farm those up as well, and there are many, many good ways to do that. So let's move on to our great category. Alright, in our great category, first up we've got Primed Ravage. So Primed Ravage might surprise you that it's in the great category, but there's a fairly good reason for this. The reason being that the only weapon you're really going to want to use Primed Ravage on is the Vacor Heck. There is an argument to be made that the Vacor Heck is one of the best weapons in the entire game. That's a very good argument. It can also heal you because it's a syndicate weapon. It's a really, really good weapon, and it's definitely worth using, and I would say, personally, it's definitely worth leveling Primed Ravage. Beyond that, the reasoning of there being pump-action shotguns coming. We do not know if one of the pump-action shotguns that we're going to get is going to be a crit pump-action shotgun. But if it is, it wants Primed Ravage. Definitely will want Primed Ravage if it is a critical shotgun. That's just facts. So, some future-proofing in there as well. I think it's definitely a good pickup, and I wouldn't skip it personally. Beyond that, we've got High Voltage and Voltaic Strike. These can technically be farmed from Hive missions. technically. Finding a group to do that with you is going to be incredibly difficult, though, and honestly, the farm will probably end up being shorter if you just go farm the ducats for it and get it from Baro. Both of these mods are very, very good. I would say high voltage, over voltaic, if you're going to pick one. Then next up, we have the Prismaskana. Prismaskana is a really, really solid single sword. It has an augment as well that is quite good. It is a very just super solid melee weapon. If you like single swords, you will almost certainly like the Prismaskana. It's got very good all-rounder kinds of stats, and the only kind of negative thing about it is that its range isn't amazing, which is really a pretty low negative in the grand scheme of things. Next up, we've got Prisma Shade. Okay, so Prisma Shade is arguably mastery fodder. There's an argument to be made for that, but me personally, I think Shade is pretty good on the whole. And there's a really big difference between the mastery fodder that's in the mastery fodder category and Prisma Shade. Prisma Shade comes with his weapon for a grand total of 9,000 mastery, which is 3 times what you're generally going to be getting out of anything that's in the mastery fodder category, and you're getting a better Shade. Shade is not a bad Sentinel. Pretty solid. I don't think it's the best, but it's a good Sentinel. You're just getting a purely better, upgraded version of that, and an extra 9,000 mastery for a relatively low amount of ducats compared to what else you could be buying. So, Prisma Shade, definitely a good pickup. Along with that, Prisma Obex. Prisma Obex have very solid stats. They just got a new augment. That augment is a bit gimmicky, but it's definitely still there, and they're very good weapons all around based on the limited testing that I've done. So I would say absolutely pick those up if you didn't already pick them up in his recent visit with those. And then on this list, this may be a slightly controversial pick to throw into my great category, but Tempo Royale. This can be farmed, albeit quite rarely, and Tempo Royale is for heavy blades. This stance is really, really good, and while Cleaving Whirlwind, the opposite stance of this, is also incredibly good, if you're someone that values your high mobility, Tempo Royale will preserve that and also still give you amazing damage. You're not going to reach the obscene DPS of Cleaving Whirlwind, but adding in that movement can really help a lot of Warframes who may really, really need it, such as an Assimilate Nyx, giving her significantly more mobility than she'll have just regularly using Assimilate. Or just a Warframe that needs to move to stay alive, or if you're in lower level content where that movement means more kills on the whole. So Tempo Royale is a really, really nice thing to have around. Beyond that, we've got Primed Regen. So Primed Regen also may be a bit of a controversial pick because I know a lot of people weren't super jazzed about Primed Regen. Here's the thing. Regen is a mod that I am pretty certain nearing 100% of Sentinels have equipped on them. Primed Regen is a purely better version of that. So if you level this, you're going to use it on every single Sentinel. Very, very likely you're going to use it on every single Sentinel you use. And with Sentinels being used as much as they are, it's kind of hard to not get a lot of mileage out of Primed Regen. So, definitely worth picking up. And then finally, in our great category, we have Sweeping Serration. I considered not putting this on here, but Sweeping Serration is on the Tigress Prime. If you're not looking to use the Tigress Prime, probably don't pick up Sweeping Serration. But if you are, it adds a hell of a lot to that weapon, very heavily weighting all of the status coming out of those pellets into just massive, massive slash damage, meaning that the Tigress Prime does even more obscene DPS when you have Sweeping Serration on it. It is an outstanding mod that I don't think is a good thing to miss on your Tigress Prime build. And that'll do it for our great category. So the last thing to do is just mop up the mastery fodder, which is just the Detron Mara, the Prisma Gorgon, the Prisma Veritux, the Prova Vandal, the Machete Wraith, the Prisma Tetra, and the Volcar Wraith. And to wrap up all the costs of these things, in the great category, it was 3,450 ducats and 1.5 million credits. And then in our mastery fodder, it is 3,320 ducats and 1.2 million credits. You can see the grand totals on screen right now. Those are without the potential 50% discount, so take that with what you will. Overall, not really going to be crazy expensive. Like, not too insane. Definitely a farmable amount. And it is worth noting that if you're someone that has very, very few of the cosmetics and you're looking to get a lot of cosmetics, I kind of made a list of the cosmetics that I think are the best and kind of figured out the ducat value of those, and it came out to about 5,000. So if you're looking to also budget in like what cosmetics you're going to be picking up if you don't have many of them, out of all of them, I kind of dropped it down to about 5,000 cost. So take with that what you will and kind of figure out where you are with your cosmetics and add those in accordingly. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys tomorrow.